Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. You guys, let me tell you what's going on. Let me just clue you in on the situation. I was so close to not recording this podcast episode because we leave for LA tomorrow, and I have so much going on. By the time you guys hear this episode, I'll be back from LA, but as of right now, we leave tomorrow, and I have so much going on, and I have been telling myself all day that I was going to get through it. I was even vlogging the past couple of days, and I was like, y'all, don't worry about it. Like, I'm going to get through everything that I need to get through. Don't even stress. Meanwhile, I was the one who should have been stressing. I was the one who should have been worried about my situation, because here it is, Wednesday night, and I am not packed. I am not together. Like, I do not have it an ounce of together, but a lot of my to-do list is done. So that does feel good. But I almost didn't record the podcast, and I was looking on Instagram and I checked my DMs, and one of y'all DM'd me. I was like, hey, just started listening to the podcast. I love it so much. I'm so excited to tune in every Sunday. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, let me get on my Zoom. Let me go clock in, because if you guys are like, obviously, you guys listen to this. Obviously, you guys want it. And a vast majority of you guys do listen to this on either Sunday or Monday when it comes out. So you listen to it very quickly. So when I miss one, my routine listeners are like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what the hell? And I have to remind myself, this is my job. This is my career. Like, I need to sit down and clock the fuck in. And so here we are recording the episode today. And I'm thankful that you kicked me into hyper gear, because I really needed to be doing this. I have some things that I want to chat about. And this really, like, as soon as I start, every single week, as soon as I start, I'm like, oh no, I love this. This is actually my favorite part of my job, getting to record the podcast and connect with you guys in this way. And so here I am doing it, and I feel so good to be doing it. But let's get into the where am I going, what am I doing, all of that stuff. First of all, what am I eating? Let's get into that. I just ordered a Jersey Mike sandwich. I ordered the number 7 Mike's Way. Okay, period. That's what you have to get into if you haven't gotten into it yet. It is truly so delicious. I ordered that, and that's on the way. And the way that I see it, it's going to take like an hour and a half to get here. That's what DoorDash said. Okay, and which I think is kind of drama, honestly. But if you're going to take an hour and a half, you're going to take an hour and a half. Let me get busy while you're doing that. So I figured I would record the podcast while my sandwich is on the way. But I ordered that. That's what I'm eating tonight. And I am so excited to have that for dinner. And because I have no groceries, you guys. And when I say I have no groceries, I don't mean it like in a cute way. Like, I can whip something up if I need to whip something up. And, I can get something together if I need to get something together. I cannot get anything together. In my fridge right now, I have 3 batches of homemade dog food. No, I don't even have pineapple. I was going to say I have pineapple. I don't even have that. I ate that. I have some grapes. I have some strawberries that are literally 1 hour away from going bad. Give them an extra hour in that refrigerator, and there's going to be a mold spot. When I finish this episode, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look, and there's going to be some kind of mold growing on that strawberry, which is awful. But you know how produce does. You get it from the grocery store, you bring it home, and it's like, oh, countdown to rotting in this girl's fridge. She doesn't want me. She just wanted to spend $6 to feel cute, just to feel something. And she's actually not going to eat me. That's what strawberries are saying. That's what produce is saying. It all goes bad so fast. And really, it's my own fault, because I know how fast I can eat fruit. I eat a pineapple probably every day, a whole pineapple probably every day. The way that I am tapped in to pineapples, and you guys have to be getting into pineapples, because here's the thing about a pineapple. Everyone thinks that pineapple is so expensive, because if you buy it cut up, you get like a quarter of the pineapple, and you have to pay like $7 or $8 for it, which is absolutely insane. And let's not even get into the ableism of that, okay? Because some people can't cut their own fruit, and so they have to buy prepackaged fruit, and it's upcharged, which is sick and twisted of our grocery stores and of our government for allowing that. Let's talk about that another time. But right now we're talking about how I don't buy the pre-cut fruit. I buy the full pineapple, because a whole pineapple is like $3 on a bad day. On a crazy day, you're paying $3 for a pineapple. And the outliers are if you live somewhere insane. If you live in New York City, if you live in Los Angeles, if you live somewhere in Canada and your pineapple is $6, girl, that is not my ministry. I don't know about that. I just know in the great state of Colorado, right here in Denver, my pineapple is often like $2.60. And so I buy multiple because they ripen up at different paces. Except also, I was looking on Reddit the other day, as I so often do. I'm on Reddit like it's my full-time job. I was looking on Reddit, and some people were saying, and don't ask me how I got into the pineapple section of Reddit. Like, I just ended up there, and sometimes you just have to be somewhere, and that's where I was called to be at that moment. So I'm looking up information about pineapples on Reddit, and actually I know why I ended up there. I ended up there because the thing the thing about my brain is that when I'm doing something that I perceive to be good for me, I want confirmation bias. I want everyone on the internet to tell me it is indeed good for me. I'm looking on Reddit, like, is pineapple good for you? Benefits of pineapple. Because I want the people to tell me that I'm doing something good. It's not enough that I feel good. I need people to tell me that I'm doing something good, which does tie back to actually quite a lot of my life, pineapple aside. But back into the pineapple, I was looking up information on pineapple, and some people were going back and forth on this subreddit thread about how pineapple ripens, like once it's transported, that's as ripe as it's going to get. It doesn't ripen more on your counter. And then some people were like, no, pineapple does ripen more on your counter. How are you going to tell me that a pineapple that's been sitting on my counter for 3 days isn't more ripe than the pineapple that's been sitting in the grocery bag because I just brought it home for 2 hours? Like, the one that's been sitting on my counter is obviously sweeter. It is obviously more ripe. And then people have been going back and forth about that. And I'm on team pineapple ripens when you bring it home, because I have noticed firsthand the longer a pineapple sits, the sweeter it is, the juicier it is. And I don't know what that could be other than it getting ripe. And maybe it's something else. I don't think it's something else. I think that my pineapple is ripening. And you guys, when you clicked onto this episode, you probably were not expecting me to go on a tangent about the ripeness of pineapples, but here I am. That's what we've got going on. That's what I have for you guys tonight. So moving on from what am I eating? Oh, I was telling you guys what the contents of my fridge are. So some almost rotten strawberries, a pineapple that I thought was there that's actually not there because I ate it. I think that there is some potato salad in there from when Alex and I grilled the other day, and a packet of tuna. And out of those items, I could make something rancid, something that I wouldn't want to eat or give to my worst enemy, but I could make something. That said, I'm not in the mood for tuna and potato salad. I feel like that's a very specific mood that I hope to never be in. I hope to never crave those things together, but one day I might, and I'll eat my words. As of today, I don't think that tuna and potato salad is really gonna do what I want it to do. So roundabout, I ordered Jimmy John's, and that's on the way. Where am I going? As you guys know, I'm going to LA. I am so excited. I am literally so excited. I haven't been there in so long, and it's just going to be fun and beautiful. The weather this week is insane. The weather is something out of my dreams. And so I'm so excited to be there and just soak that up for a couple of days and just see what we get into. Moving on from that, that's where I'm going. Oh my God, what am I watching? You guys, The Bear Season 3 comes on tonight. By the time you guys are hearing this, it's been out for a couple of days. Like, The Bear Season 3 starts tonight, and I cannot contain my excitement. The Bear is everything to me. The Bear is a show that I watch when I am sad, when I'm anxious, when I'm happy, when I just want to relax. Like, The Bear is my show. And so that's coming back on tonight. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to watch the first episode. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to sit down with my Jersey Mike sandwich, and I'm going to tap in. So that's my plan for the night. And I think that that's kind of everything that I wanted to catch you guys up on. I feel better this week. I know that last week I was telling you guys that I was going through something kind of heavy, and I think it's still looming. It's still kind of like in the air, but ultimately I feel a little bit better about it, and I think that everything is going to work itself out the way that it should, and I just can't spend too much time stressing about something that I genuinely just have no control over. And so that's what I'm focusing on, just focusing on the present and what I have right in front of me and what I can control and what I can do, and that has been feeling good to me the past couple of days. And so that's what I've been doing, and I feel good about that. So also, you guys, I know I'm like all over the place right now. There's a lot of energy in this body right now. There's a lot going on, but I saw Noah Khan last night. Me and Hallie went. We were invited by Brand, and we went, and oh my God, we had the best seats. When I tell you guys, we had the best seats in the house. So we were in the 200 section, and the way that we were sitting, we were right on the edge of our row, a couple rows back, and we had an unobstructed view directly to the stage, standing or sitting. It was perfect. And so I sat. I'm not even going to front. I sat for a good amount of this concert. I truly did. I love to sit at a concert. If you give me a chair, I'm going to sit in it. I do not want to stand the whole time. That's just not my ministry. It's not who I am. I want to sit down. I want to sway to the music in my chair. I want to, relax. And so that's what I did for a good bit of the show. I sat down and I had the perfect view. And of course I stood up for some songs. Like All My Love, you've got to stand up and shake ass for. Sixth Season, you got to stand up and shake ass for. And the crazy thing is saying Noah Khan and shake ass in the same sentence is kind of absurd. No one is imagine shaking ass to Strawberry Wine or Growing Sideways. And I would do it. If it came on at the club, I would do it. I say came on at the club as if I'm at the club. I am not at the club. If you live in Denver, the only club I'm at is Dawn's Club Tavern. And that's the only club that you're going to find me at. I'm not actually at the club. I don't even know what club exists in Denver. I don't know. I'm sure that Denver has clubs. I don't know where they are. I don't know who goes. I don't know what their vibe is. If somebody DM me right now and was like, hey, I'm coming to Denver, I want to visit, do you have any club recommendations? I would say, girl, you are barking up the wrong tree. I unfortunately have never been to a club in my life, and I definitely don't know one in Denver, Colorado. So all that to say, NoahCon was incredible. So glad we went. Hallie and I had the best time. I had some incredible chicken tenders. They were so good. And then they had those like mini donuts. I love Shipley's, if you're familiar with Shipley's, because those literally, you touch it to your tongue and it dissolves in the most sugary, buttery bliss you've ever experienced. But I also love the ones that they have at special events that are like those, not cake donuts, but I don't even know how to describe them. They're just like these mini donuts, and they are usually coated in some kind of cinnamon or like apple cinnamon, that kind of thing. And I don't know the specific name of these donuts, but next time you're at a fair, or why did I say next time you're at the fair? Who's just at the fair? Next time you're at the fair, pick these up. Like, the fair is just all the time. The fair is not all the time, but next time you're at some kind of event, like a concert, maybe they'll have them, or the fair or the rodeo. If you're around somewhere that does a rodeo, look for those mini donuts. You'll be able to smell them before you see them. They smell like sugar and cinnamon and bliss. So those are my updates, and I figured that we would go ahead and get into the episode. This week I wanted to talk about my therapist and I. We've been not talk about my therapist and I, but talk about something that my therapist and I discussed, where I have a really hard time with feeling my feelings. I think that I tend to be really avoidant when it comes to my feelings, and I don't often sit in them and rest in them. And that has really done me such a disservice, and I didn't even realize it'd been doing me a disservice. But I had realized over time that I actually haven't processed anything fully in a very long time. It takes me a long time to process something because I don't give myself the time and the room to do it. And so I'm working on that, and I've been talking about that in therapy. And I wanted to talk to you guys about my experience with kind of avoiding my feelings and shrugging them off and not really processing them, and what that has looked like for me and the steps that I'm taking to get through that, because I feel like that's probably something a lot of us do. I think that a lot of us are really busy, and we have so much going on, and we have people to care for, ourselves to care for. We have jobs, and we have friends, and we have families, and we have things that we want to do. And so it seems kind of inconvenient and hard to set aside time for us to actually feel the depth of our feelings and move through them as they come. I think that this conversation is just kind of needed within our community right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. So if you're like me, you grew up in a household where the adults did not really like dealing with the children's emotions. I was told very often growing up, like, go sit down somewhere. I don't want to hear that. Shut up. Things like that, being told that the expression of my emotions wasn't okay, or it wasn't for public display. And even if I was really struggling with something, or if I was getting yelled at, or if I was in trouble, or if whatever, like anytime I was having this really big emotion that wasn't overwhelmingly positive or happy, I was told that nobody wanted to hear that. And it really was harmful for me because I didn't realize that was an unhealthy behavior. I thought that everyone dealt with that. I thought that everyone's parents were like that. I didn't know that there were places where people could fully express their emotions however they came up. And in my adult life, I think that I'm realizing more and more how much that affected me, because I have some behaviors now as an adult that really are reflective of that inability to share my emotions publicly as a child. And when I say publicly, I'm not talking about having meltdowns in the grocery store. I'm talking about being in my mom's room and I start to cry, or I show some kind of negative emotion and I'm told that that was inappropriate, or she didn't want to see that, or I was being too much, or I needed to go away. That was quite a frequent experience for me. I don't think that was something that happened every so often, because I do understand that our parents, our family members are just people. And sometimes when they're dealing with their own really heavy emotions, their own stressors, their own anxieties, dealing with somebody else's, even though it's not the healthiest thing to do or say, dealing with somebody else's emotions can be really challenging and tricky. And sometimes just in an explosive moment or in an angry moment or in the pit of frustration, you just kind of want to push it away. And I think I would have more empathy for that. Now that I'm an adult, I think I would have more empathy for that if this was happening infrequently, but this was happening so often. I would say 90% of the time that I showed a negative emotion, I was told that it was inappropriate to be displaying that emotion. And so now that I'm an adult, I realize that one of my coping mechanisms is to shut down. And when I feel like I'm having a really big emotional reaction, instead of expressing that or showing that, I just shut down, because I think that I also have a really hard time trusting myself with my emotions, if that makes any sense. I think that my emotionally avoidant girlies are going to get this, but when I am going through something and it's making me angry or it's making me very sad, those are kind of the two emotions I notice this with. When I'm feeling those things, I sometimes feel like I can't trust myself, and I feel like if I don't shut down, I'm going to explode. And so I would rather not explode on somebody, and I'd rather not be overly angry or overly sad. So I just completely shut down, which is really not a very healthy thing to do, I've learned. And in therapy, we've been talking about how when you are told that you shouldn't be displaying your emotions and your emotions should be kept private, you often don't learn healthy ways to navigate through them and how to communicate them. And so when I am really frustrated about something and I feel like I'm not being heard the way that I want to be heard, or I feel like I'm being dismissed, if I don't shut down, I feel like my next reaction is to just get really explosive. And when I say really explosive, I don't mean emotionally abusive. I don't mean I'm berating people. It's not like that. I just get very angry, and then I get very sharp, and I get very short, which is not the way that obviously I want to be communicating with people, because when I get angry and sharp and short, the communication that I'm trying to convey actually doesn't come out the way that I want it to, and it causes more tension and more disconnection in that moment. And really what I'm looking for is more connection and more closeness to figure out how to get through the situation, whether this is with a partner or with work or with friends, whatever it may be, or with myself. I think that I tend to get frustrated with myself, and because I don't know how to properly navigate this emotion and deal with it in a way that is really healthy and communicative, I just tend to shut it out for myself. And instead of allowing myself to feel it, it's like, okay, well, you don't know how to deal with this properly. You don't know how to work through this. And so you're just not going to feel it at all. And I have been talking a lot in therapy about how that has affected me in so many ways, and I didn't even realize it. And I was telling her about how sometimes when I feel really, really sad, I don't feel like I have the space to cry, which is interesting because when I was younger, I cried a lot, especially in my teen years. I was very, very emotional, and I would cry a lot. Obviously, I wasn't crying in front of people. That was a big no-no in my house, but I was crying by myself a lot, and I was kind of really expressive, especially around my friends. I was really expressive in that way. And then somehow, as I got older, I think that I have reverted to young child brain, where I was told that that was bad and that was wrong, and I have convinced myself that it's bad and it's wrong. And so when I'm going through a really stressful time, and I know that crying will kind of help me release that tension and give me the space to figure out what's really going on and how I can actively fix it, because crying is such a release. I just don't allow myself to do it. And my therapist is like, we have to unlearn the belief that crying is bad, that showing displays of emotion, even with yourself, being vulnerable with yourself, is bad. It is not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. And the more vulnerable you get with yourself, the closer you can get to yourself. And that resonated with me so much, because I think that I pride myself on feeling so connected to myself and so in tune with myself, but not when I'm experiencing these negative emotions. It's like I am reverting back to childhood, where my family members wanted to be around me and enjoyed me so much when I was happy-go-lucky, when I was bubbly, when I was fun. But the minute that I was having negative emotions, it was, go sit down somewhere. It was, let's shut it out. Let's not do that. And I think that as an adult, I've started to do that to myself. I think that instead of feeling my feelings and riding the wave of it, unless I am in a really good mood and I'm really happy and things are going well, I don't want to deal with the negative emotions. It's why I find that it's easier for me to journal when I'm in a good mood, because I think that I will allow myself the space to have those emotions and allow myself the space to be happy and eager and thankful. But I have a hard time allowing myself the space to feel upset and frustrated or sad and angry. Like I have a really hard time allowing myself the space to feel those things. But what I'm learning right now is that the more vulnerable I'm willing to be with myself, the more vulnerable I'll allow myself to be with other people, because the age-old saying is you can only meet people as deeply as you meet yourself. And if I'm not meeting myself deeply in terms of negative emotions, I am not going to be able to meet people deeply when I'm having negative emotions towards them or around them, specifically around them. I find that I am quite a confrontational person. I have no problems with confrontation. If something's bothering me, I'm going to tell you. If something is frustrating to me or harmful to me or hurtful to me, I'm going to tell you. I have no problem with that, even to the point where sometimes I can get combative. I think when I'm feeling so confrontational and I want a certain point to get across, and even if the conversation has really met its natural end, I sometimes will find something to pick it back up on, because in my head, I think that I really don't want the conversation to come up again. Or if it does come up again, I want to be able to say, well, we've talked about this and we should have already worked through this. And so why is it happening again? I think that I have a really hard time repeating myself when it comes to my needs. And that's a whole different episode that we'll get into. But I find that I am quite confrontational. But when I'm experiencing negative emotions around somebody, I tend to shut down. For example, last night, Hallie and I were coming back from NoahCon, and one of my friends who was involved in the situation I was telling you guys about last week, just that hard situation where it's like a big web of just pain and hurt. Like, she called me and we were talking about it because something new happened in it. And I was, talking her through it, whatever. We were figuring out what we were going to do. And then I hung up the phone and Hallie was like, oh, what's going on? Is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And everything was not fine. I was having a lot of internal feelings, and I was feeling mostly scared, and I think sad, and I was feeling lonely in it. And if only I was willing to be more vulnerable in that moment, I think that some of that loneliness would have been eased, but I had a hard time allowing it to be. When I'm experiencing these negative emotions around people, I find that I shut down. And I think that that's because when I'm experiencing negative emotions around myself, I shut down. And so it's not easy for me to flip that switch, because if I can't feel entirely safe with myself to be vulnerable and to be open and to feel the depth of my feelings, then how can I expect myself to be entirely vulnerable around other people? And I think that that does me a disservice to my relationships, because my friends and my boyfriend they're incredible people who want to help me and be close to me and care for me through these things. And if I continue to shut down when they're just trying to help me, and then I feel this loneliness and this disconnection, I have to realize that I'm the one causing that. It's not for their lack of trying. It's not for their lack of care. It's for my lack of being willing to be open, because I think that I have this fear also that if I open up to people and I share how I'm feeling about certain things with people, and then I don't get the response that I'm looking for, I'm going to feel even more disconnected. Do you know what I mean? Have you guys experienced that, where you want to talk to somebody about something, but in the past you've opened up to them and they gave you a response that you weren't really looking for, or that wasn't very helpful, and so you kind of feel like you don't want to open up to them again because you don't want that experience again, because it feels very disconnecting and it feels like you're trying to get on the same page and have someone help you through something, and that vulnerability almost feels wasted, even though vulnerability truly is never wasted. There's always something to learn, there's always something to give, there's always something to take in those situations. But I have definitely experienced that, where I wanted to be vulnerable with somebody, and the response that I got made me feel like I almost regret that vulnerability and that openness, because I just felt like they couldn't meet me where I needed them to meet me. And I think that, and I'm working on that, I think, because just because someone doesn't give you the response that you're looking for in that moment, the one that you have your heart set out on, doesn't mean that what they say doesn't have value. I think that sometimes the best things I've taken away from conversations is when I was talking to somebody about something and I expected one response or one answer and I got another one, and their actual response meant so much more to me and resonated with me so much more than I thought the original response was going to. I've experienced this a lot in therapy, where I'll be expressing myself through a situation, and my therapist will give me a response that I really was not expecting, one that I really wasn't even looking for. And it reminds me in that moment that that's the reason I go to therapy. That's the reason I pay a professional, because I actually cannot be my own therapist. There's a lot of things I can be for myself, but my own therapist is not one of them. I often need an outside and external perspective to help me see things more clearly. And that is not to change my feelings, but it is to broaden my perspective and my worldview. Because when somebody helps me zoom out from my own brain and from the feelings that I'm feeling inside my body to see it in a bigger picture, I often can work through it faster than if I just kind of internalize it, which leads me kind of to my next point, that I tend to intellectualize my feelings. And I think that this episode has really just been me like talking to you guys about all of the things that I do, and I know I should be doing something else, but I think that for the sake of what we do here, I have said this before in previous episodes, where I don't want to come to you guys when I have these fully formed, these beautiful answers and responses, and I know everything, because I don't know everything. I think that I'm working through things alongside you guys, and the more open I can be about working through things alongside you guys, the better connection we can have, which is what I was just saying in the episode. But back to what I was saying is that I tend to intellectualize my feelings, and instead of actually just feeling how I feel, I try to reason and logic my way out of it. And myself, you shouldn't be feeling this way because it's not logical, it's not reasonable, as if feelings need logic and reason. And I think that I do that maybe because when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, it really helped me to use logic and reason to get out of it. When I was having these really scary thoughts a lot, I could use logic and reason to calm myself down. But when I'm feeling other emotions besides anxiety, it is not always healthy or helpful to try to logic and reason my way out of it. I think that that's why I have a hard time sometimes processing things and therefore getting over things, because instead of actually dealing with how I'm feeling and the depth of that, I almost push it to the side and try to tell myself, okay, well, you don't need to feel that way because this, or you don't need to feel this way because that. And maybe if I just let myself rest in the way that I'm feeling without trying to convince myself that I don't need to be feeling that way, I could get over things 10 times faster and move through things 10 times faster in a way that actually feels settled and done, rather than just putting band-aid after band-aid on it and then waiting for it to explode, because it always does every time. I also have this tendency, and I've noticed it more and more lately, that when I'm having really big emotions, I tend to try to be productive rather than just sitting in them. So what that'll look like is if I'm feeling really upset about something, I will just really hyper focus on work. That's what I've been doing these past couple of weeks. I felt really good in my career and really, really good about the content that I've been creating, but I have been doing it, I think, in an avoidant way so that I don't have to process the stress that I've been feeling and the fear that I've been feeling and the anxiety that I've been feeling. Because if I just don't focus on it and I do something else, then I think that I feel that energy will kind of move through my body and I'll deal with it by way of just doing something else. And transparently, you guys, that has not been working for me. Like, that is not actually the way to go. I think that while I've been making advancements in my career, I think that I've been taking steps back in my personal care and my personal connection with myself. And I think that quite a few of us do this. I think that that's why we have workaholics, people who focus all of their energy and all of their time and all of the care that they would put into other things into work. It's because they're often trying to avoid something else. And I think that's what I've been doing lately. And it really hasn't been doing exactly what I needed to do. I think that while I feel good about where I am in my career, I do feel like everything eventually is going to come back up, and it's starting to come back up. And my therapy sessions have been great and really healthy in that way because I've been working through these things, but I've been carrying around a lot of this tension with myself. Okay, when is it going to happen? What's that thing that's going to send you over the edge? What is going to make you feel that anxiety all over again? What's going to make you feel that disconnection, that sadness all over again? And that is just not a way to live. Sometimes suppressing our emotions sometimes feels like the right move in the moment because we're in certain situations where it doesn't really serve us to cry. I was talking to my friend the other day about how she has a hard time with like crying at work when she gets really hard feedback or when she gets a critique about something, that her body's natural reaction is to cry. And when we're at work, that doesn't really serve us, right? When we cry, especially as women, it makes us look weak. It makes us look emotional. It makes us look untrustworthy, which is all the things people have been saying about women in the workplace for years. And so it feels like we're almost proving them right when we have these emotional reactions. But these emotional reactions are natural and human. And maybe we are having this conversation that maybe workplaces need to get more empathetic rather than telling us that we are wrong and telling us that we need to suppress our emotions. Maybe we understand if somebody's telling us for 20 minutes straight that we're doing something wrong, that maybe that emotional reaction is natural and is normal. And I'm not saying we need to go around work crying all the time every time we get harsh feedback. And we do need to be developing thicker skin in some situations. But in some situations, I think that if you shed a tear, if you're feeling this emotional response, what is so wrong about that? What is so negative about that? Why does that make you all of these bad things, untrustworthy, too emotional, whatever they may say? Why does it mean all of that? Why can't it just mean I am dealing with a lot of critique about something that I care about right now and I'm having an emotional response to it, which is natural and normal? Which leads me into realizing that sometimes what I'll do is shove down my emotions because I don't want to inconvenience other people. I think that when I'm having this emotional reaction in certain situations, it feels easier for me to hold it and hold it and hold it, because once I let it out, I don't know that it'll stop, and I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I don't want to make people feel like I am asking for too much of them, because I understand that, especially when you're crying, when you're having an emotional response like crying, I understand that sometimes when you cry, people feel this responsibility to soothe. And so I don't want to make people feel that way. I don't want to make people feel responsible for my emotions. That said, I think that it really only does me a disservice to tell myself to bottle it down, because I am assuming that people don't want to help me. I'm assuming that people don't want to care for me in that moment. I'm never assuming the best in my relationships and that they would want to work through something with me. And even if they don't give me the response that I'm looking for, just knowing that they're there, even if they don't have anything to say at all, just being there with me and allowing me to have a safe space where I can express my emotions is reframing and unlearning that unhealthy childhood mentality that I had, where I was constantly told that nobody wanted to see my emotions. And I also think it's like part of the Southerner in me, right? Where it's, you have to keep on a brave face. You have to have it together. You have to look well kept and well done at all times, or else people are going to talk about you. That's so prevalent in the South. I'm sure it's prevalent in other places too, but just so prevalent in the South, where you have to make sure that you are aces at all times, or else people are going to gossip, or else people are going to assume the worst, or else whatever it may be, people are always going to have something to say. And I think that I've learned a lot of that behavior as well when it comes to expressing myself publicly, or just freely expressing how I'm feeling rather than just shutting down. I think that if you shut down, people can't really say anything about you because you haven't shared anything. If you shut down, it's almost like you have protection from that kind of response. The worst thing that they can say is, she just stopped talking, rather than if I have this really big emotional response and it's, oh, well, she's crying in public, or oh, she got really upset, or oh, she cursed in public. My God, how dare she, whatever. And one thing that I've learned, and well, we kind of have to practice duality in this situation, so walk with me, talk with me, keep everything that I just said, and also add this. Sometimes people don't deserve to see the range of our emotions. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we come to people and we try to find connection, and we try to be very emotional with them and connect with them as people, and they don't want to see us as people. Sometimes people want to see us as just someone to walk all over, someone to hurt, someone to abuse. And you can't reason with people like that. You can't reason with narcissists. You can't reason with people who don't want the best for you. And to reason with them emotionally almost adds fuel to their fire, because the more emotion you show them, the more they can reject, and the more they can reject, the better about themselves that they feel. And so I think that all of what I'm trying to say is that we have to find our safe spaces to express. And That said, if someone or people are not a safe space for you to express, it's maybe time to question, are those people you really want in your life? Are those people you want to spend time around? If you feel like you can't express your emotions and be yourself, whatever that looks like, if that's happy and giddy and bubbly, or if that's depressed and crying and silent, whatever it may be, if you feel you can't express that with somebody, why is that somebody you really want to call a friend or a partner or someone close to you? I am not interested in being around people that make me feel like I can't be like myself. And while I'm still learning what it's like to communicate with people and how to express myself openly and how to have emotions in front of people, like negative emotions in front of people, I am also learning that that is something that I'm working through, and not for the lack of my community, not for the lack of care in my community. My community cares about me so much. And when I'm ready to open up and when I'm ready to have these emotions and these conversations with people, they are going to greet me with open arms. There's a difference between not being able to and not being ready to. And I am just really thankful that in some situations I'm not ready to, and it's not that I can't. And I want to leave you with this that I've been carrying with me. And it's simply that we should feel so lucky and so privileged to feel the depth and the width of human emotion. And I think about the times where I was in the worst depressive episodes that I've had, where I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't cry. I couldn't smile. I was listening to the songs that I thought were my favorite, and they weren't moving me to feel anything. I was watching shows that I once connected with. I was having conversations with people. I was sitting with people, and I couldn't feel anything. And how much I wish so bad I could just feel something, because once I feel it, I can work through it. Once I feel it, I can name it, and then I can challenge it, and I can move through it, and I can address it. But when I'm not feeling anything, I can't do that. I can't express anything. It's like I'm stuck in it and I'm trapped in it. And when I'm having these really big emotions, I have to remind myself, like, you wanted this. And I'm not really even saying I'm thankful for anxiety. I'm not saying I'm thankful for depression. I'm not saying that like I'm thankful for any of those things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm thankful to be able to feel it, because once I feel it, I can do something with it. And being able to do something with it is the thing that drives me. Being able to communicate how I feel and share it with you guys, share it with the people in my life, put it to myself, that is what drives me. The ability to form relationships. And so many of my relationships have been formed out of how I feel. And that is what I'm thankful for. And I know this was just kind of an episode of me really talking and not offering a ton of advice. I don't really have a ton of advice to give on this subject. I was just kind of like moving through what I've learned and what I feel and how I'm processing this as it comes up. And I'm still so new in my journey of realizing it is okay to show people how I feel. And it is okay if all of my emotions aren't just happy. I think that when I first started TikTok, a lot of the comments I was getting was like, you seem so happy and you seem like a breath of fresh air and you seem like you're so full of joy. And while that's true, some days I'm so full of joy and some days I'm full of dread. And that's just the reality of the human experience. But I felt this pressure to constantly show my good face and my happy face because I thought that's what people wanted to see. I think doing episodes like this almost feels therapeutic for me because it reminds me that you guys still want me around, even if I'm not bubbly and offering the best advice and having worked through the situations and been able to give you something. You guys still want me if I'm just being myself and telling you guys how I'm feeling. And that means so much to me. It's about connection. And I think that if the only way we connect is if you can take something from me rather than just sitting with me, then I think that I've done something wrong. I think that the relationship that I want to build with the community that I have is the ability to just sit and feel how we feel and not necessarily have to be on and happy all of the time. And I think that I've gotten better at that because I've gotten better at that within myself. And hopefully you guys have noticed as we progress in this podcast and as my online presence has kind of changed, that I am more comfortable showing you guys my emotions and I'm more comfortable being open about things like this. I think I've been having more episodes like this where I'm like, hey, to be honest, I don't have all the answers. I don't really have a key takeaway, but I will say this, and then I'll just tell you guys how I'm feeling and what I'm working through. The response I get to these kinds of episodes means so much to me because you guys are like, oh, thank you for just saying it. Thank you for just putting it out there and not showing that everything is just like rainbows and butterflies all the time. Thank you for showing the reality of what it is to just like be 25 and have so much to figure out. And that means a lot to me. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode and and just sitting with me and just sitting with it. And as I learn more and as I work through more, obviously I'm going to share it with you guys. And I'm so thankful that I have the platform and the space to do it. The episode has truly been a roller coaster from the beginning to the end. I had so much energy coursing through my veins at the beginning of this episode, and now I feel more leveled out and more chill. I feel like I just had so much in my brain and I had to get it out. And so now that I've gotten it out, I feel so good. But I wanted to get an episode out for you guys because it's just what was on my mind and what I was feeling. And getting that DM really did turn things around for me. And it reminded me that you guys just want me to show up. And so here I am showing up, even if it's not perfect, even if I don't have the best words, even if this episode isn't full of key takeaways and bullet points and all these things, even if this episode is me just sitting in front of the camera, connecting with you guys and talking to you guys. So I'm just so thankful that you would show up for it. Okay. And I will see you on Instagram. I'll see you on TikTok. I'll see you around. And I love you so much. And I'm on your side. Mwah.